One company I'm very familiar with is the infamous plush company Kellytoy. They're well known for all of their Mario products, Sonic products, and prototypes. However, one plush that I didn't even know Kellytoy made was their Thomas and Friends plush set. This set released in 2011 and consists of Thom Perce and James. I'm not sure how these plushies were released, as info on them is very scarce. But knowing Kellytoy, they were probably exclusive to arcades. There's not much else to say, so let's begin. Are these plushies good or bad? Well, let's find out by looking at the first plush, Thomas the Tank Engine. Here's Thomas. I'd say this plush looks pretty close to Thomas's shape. One design choice I find strange is how Kellytoy dealt with his smoke box. It pokes out pretty far and isn't accurate to Thomas. But other than that tiny nitpick, I think it captures Thomas's shape and design really well. With that being said, I still do think this plush has flaws, most of them being down to how this plush was made. For example, let's take a look at his side. Before I go on ranting about what this thing is made of, I just want to say that I'm so glad he has his side rods, spokes, and whistle. These are details that most companies skip out on. Unfortunately, it's all applied using this stupid overlayish vinyl material. For those who don't know, vinyl is an extremely delicate material that cracks and ruins plushies over time, but if kept in good condition, looks nice. Another thing, and this isn't the fault of the vinyl or anything, but his running board is also kind of flat, which to my knowledge is only a Railway Series and All Engines Go thing. Not a real problem, just an observation. Here's the set's tush tag. It has the Thomas and Friends and Kellytoy logo. The back is not that great. It has Thomas's windows, which is another detail many companies skip out on. Overall, this Thomas plush is pretty solid, but how rare is it? Not rare at all. Being the main character, Thomas was the most produced plush out of this whole set. Going based off recent eBay listings, he's been selling for $10, so I guess his price is around $10. Next is Percy the Small Engine. Percy has to be my favorite out of this whole set, mostly because of his accurate proportions. Before we move on to the positives, I feel I have to address the biggest negative first. Most of the green parts on Percy's body are sort of one big piece, which doesn't help it to look accurate. He's also missing his water tank. However, many Percy plushies skip out on this detail, so I can give it a pass. But other than that, this plush is nearly perfect. The thing I love the most about this Percy plush are his tanks. They're not lazily applied like on other plushies. No, they have some depth. He also has his correct amount of wheels, different from Thomas's. They even included a cylinder. Although it's just an overlay, it's nice it's still even there. His bunker is, surprisingly, bigger than Thomas's. Now, this is a detail they could have easily skipped, but they didn't, and that's so great. Overall, this Percy plush is my favorite plush in the whole Kellytoy Thomas and Friends set. They definitely got more things right with Percy than Thomas and James. Alright, rarity for Percy. Compared to Thomas, Percy's a little rarer, but if you do look hard enough, Percy does pop up. But since he's rarer and harder to find, I would price him around $20. Overall, this Percy plush is pretty good. It still does have the problem of using vinyl, but come on, that's to be expected. I think I've gone on about Percy enough, so let's move on to James the Red Engine. Last but not least, here's James. James has to be my second favorite plush in the set, right behind Percy. Don't get me wrong, I really do love the Thomas in this set. However, James usually gets the worst treatment when it comes to plushies, so I'm glad this plush is at least accurate. However, it's not perfect. My absolute biggest gripe with this James plush is how Kellytoy did the boiler. It slopes down pretty far, a bit too far. Every James plush has this. As a result, James always looks down. His splashers are also the worst interpretations of James's splashers ever. They're only represented by lining, which is extremely lazy on Kellytoy's part. His funnel is also the shortest out of the whole set. If you look at CGI renders, which Kellytoy most likely based their plushies off of, you can tell that that's not how James looks. However, these problems do not ruin the plush at all. and I still think this plush is one of the best James plushies. My favorite part about this plush is James's tender. Now, most companies would use cheap tactics to mesh James and his tender together, but not this plush, it's separate. I also love this part of James. A lot like Percy's tank, it has depth to it. Even his handrails are there, which is great. Now for James's rarity. James is the rarest plush in this entire set. He barely pops up for sale. In fact, the last time he did was probably a couple years ago. This listing of James was up for many years, and they were asking for $129 for him. This plush is definitely not worth that much. I'd say he's around Percy's price. And that was the Kellytoy Thomas and Friends set. Honestly, I don't think these plushies are that great. Many Thomas plush sets are just simply better than this one. The Guns plush set, SK Japan plushies, Japanese Thomas plushies in general are all examples. Despite this, these plushies are fine. Not good, not amazing, just fine. If you just want some CGI Thomas plushies, you can't really get much better than this. The Kellytoy Thomas and Friends plush set, while by no means my favorite Thomas plush set, will always be an interesting case.